Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 at AP English. And this is a special presentation lecture on the passing of the great Kobe Bryant, a literary perspective. A number of you have asked me about the senselessness of this, the loss of not just Kobe Bryant, but of course his daughter, as well as those others who were his colleagues, and of course the pilot of a chopper. How to explain a tragedy of this magnitude. Teachers often are asked by young people, can you explain all of this? What does it all mean, this pain, this suffering? Of course, let's qualify this as the question that we ask in 303, that's called the Question of Theodicy, back to our study of Milton and Paradise Lost. A student saying out loud, you know, Kobe was before my time. LeBron James is my hero of all heroes, and yet when I saw him weeping the way he wept about the passing of Kobe Bryant, I knew I should be moved in profound ways, and you're right about that. Let's give a literary perspective to this event, and of course to the pain that you are feeling. No question about that. It is legitimate pain. Reminding us right away that if in fact it is the case that we are the stories that we tell, the stories we retell, the stories that we accept, and of course the stories as well that we reject, right? Then what about this story, and what is it that it can teach us? I think there's three ways that our literature and literature study can help us to understand the passing of a legend like Kobe Bryant. The first, I think, is the absolute nature of chaos and death in this life. We have said for a long time in 303, there are some absolutes, and one of them is, you ain't met no 200-year-old person. Or the only difference between you and a fly is you know about fly swatters. And of course, when we study Burns's To a Mouse, we're reminded of the potentiality of the plow. All of these lectures, of course, available at learnstrong.net if you wish to go back and to review them. But maybe the most profound word picture is that one that they were teaching it to us from the time we were very young at the park. We're swinging, we're having a great time, and some adult says, you got to go to the van. And we said, no, I don't want to go to the van. No, here's the thing, you got to go to the van. They were teaching this truth to us at such a young age. And of course, our literature teaches it to us as well, right? Here is, of course, the central teaching of so many of the texts that we studied together in Room 303. Think of it. Here is the final lines of the Iliad, right? They buried Hector, you'll remember, tamer of horses. Here is the end of Beowulf and his final request. And of course, that funeral pyre as they are circling. And here is, of course, the conclusion of the Arthur story, that once and future king. So many of our titles that we study from the great Shakespeare. And on we could go. We have been taught for a long time. Now we're witnessing it. You only get to swing at the park for a little period of time. The second thing that we learn, I think, and we can help to understand the passing of the legend of Kobe Bryant through literature, is the importance of living a good life. Think about Beowulf. At the conclusion of his life, that great hero, after the killing of the dragon with the help of Wiglaf, he makes a request. And what is that request? He wants to be remembered. Remembered how? A lighthouse. Why? Because the lighthouse is the guide. And to that degree, of course, the importance of living a good life, as we learned from our study of Psalm of Life, Longfellow's great poem, the great American poet. He says it, lives of great men all remind us, we can make our lives sublime. And departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time, footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother seeing, shall take heart again. This notion that you live a life that others will want to emulate. It's pretty clear from all that's been said of Kobe Bryant and the life legacy that he will leave for us. He wanted the young to look at his life, to emulate his life in spite of the flaws. We would say all great heroes have those flaws, no question. Think about Nietzsche and our study of eternal reoccurrence. That notion of if this evening you passed away and had to go back and relive your whole life again, and then again, and then again, are you willing to say about the life that you're living, you'd be willing to do it again and again and again, living your life as a work of art, to live a life of which you're proud of. Of course, what are we really saying? If you only get a short time to swing at the park, swing well, so that when it's time to go, that is to say, I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety, Wordsworth's little poem that means so much to us in 303. Finally, I think Kobe's passing as a legend, no question a legend, is helping us to understand the meaning of existence. If you wish to argue that life is meaningless and silly and frivolous, then I'll ask, why are you sad when you and we lose a great person? Why? Because I think innately we understand that life is something really important, something precious. Now, some, of course, will say, are you serious with me? He was just a basketball player after all. Wait. This is the thing about art, and we, of course, have always said in 303, we assume art and sport together. No question, they are all performances. But what is it that Kobe's art taught us? I think, importantly, that life is two things. His life demonstrates this, as all great legends will demonstrate it. Life is two things. No question competitive. About Kobe Bryant, all of those who played with him and against him report fierce competitor. But there's the other side. Life is also cooperative. Everything that's said of him in regards to his friendships, the kind of father that he sought to be, was that he understood cooperation. See, think about it. What is basketball? What is any sport? Is it competitive or is it cooperative? Of course, it's a representation, as all great art is, a representation of life. It is, of course, both. We must have both. To understand that, of course, allows us then to appreciate the call by Plato in the Republic of balance, harmony, being able to respect the importance of competition and the value of cooperation. They go together. They must go together. And of course, with that in mind, even as we said, with all of his flaws, and of course, he was the first to admit them, wasn't he? As all great heroes will admit their flaws. He showed us how you balance both the competitive and the cooperative in a well-lived life. To that degree, of course, we are reminded of Plato's Republic and, of course, St. Augustine's Confessions, among any number of other texts that we've studied here together in 303. What are those virtues, those important cardinal virtues, those 7 virtues? The 4 of Plato, wisdom, no question, not just knowledge, but the ability to use one's knowledge. Courage, the ability to enforce what one believes in one's heart of hearts is one's values. Of course, you have to have some discipline, some temperance, and finally, justice, no question. And then, of course, St. Augustine's, those Pauline cardinals, to finish out our 7 cardinal virtues of faith, belief, of course, and hope, that believing about the future is going to be better. And then finally, the most important of them all, no question, love. About all of these virtues, we could ask, is it not true that Kobe Bryant sought to live his life to respect all of them? And in that regards, then, our literary perspective on the passing of a great legend, I think, makes some sense. I hope makes some sense for us. Why? Because Kobe's passing reminds us how precious each story is, how brief each story is, how eternal each story is. Legends, of course, and this is the value of our heroes. This is what we have said in 303 for so long about the classic stories. This is why we need those stories, even though there's huge parts of those stories we don't necessarily accept anymore, and yet we need them. Why? Because legends challenge us to what? Learn better, feel better, know better. Notice I said better, not bitter. And there's often the misunderstanding when one looks into the face of catastrophe, of passing, of chaos. We have a tendency to want to be bitter, don't we? And of course, we have to be better, not bitter. Of course, we've often pointed out, we began with the Question of Theodicy, the book of Job comes to mind, Milton's Paradise Lost comes to mind, so many titles come to mind. What is it that we normally ask when terrible, tragic things happen? Yes, why did this happen to me? We've pointed out from our study of any number of texts that we have to learn to ask a different question. When you ask, why did this happen to me, you are seeing yourself as a victim in a universe of which you have no control. To change that preposition from 2 to 4 and ask, why did this happen for me? That is the key, isn't it? And of course, in the moment that one does that, one is no longer a victim. One is able to take events, even cataclysmic events, even horrific events, and try and find some meaning. It's not that we're saying we hope for bad things. We know suffering is a part of this life. Can we use it and in some ways improve our life? It's a fair question to ask. If you are moved by the passing of a legend, and you should be moved by a passing of a legend, the real question is, what does it mean for you? How can you learn something important from it? Every generation, of course, has to learn to deal with the loss of a hero. This is why Tennyson's Ulysses is so important. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars. Until I die, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. The Scrooge story reminds us, at the moment of our passing, everyone says those words, oh my God. The question is the inflection of the voice, to challenge us to have that inflection of a voice that says, I've lived my life well, and even though I don't want to leave this park, I'd like to keep swinging. Sooner or later, I've always known, I got to go to the van. And everyone I love has to go to the van, which is what makes life so meaningful, so precious. Let me share a set of lines with you that maybe will speak directly to the pain. I call this set of lines Seldom, quoting Rilke's Duino Elegy's third elegy, seldom did you, mother, smile so tenderly. Learn this. Feel this. Finally, know this is what chaos feels like. Reaching up to squeeze your throat shut, making tears your only whisper scream. One more legend is passed. Kobe. So less than old at 41, and his beautiful child, to prove chaos does not care. You ask me, learn, feel, know what? I retort, first with a hug. Here, finally, is why I remind you, we are, you are, the stories we tell, retell, accept, and sometimes reject. This pain, rage you feel was felt, known before. Here is the final lines of the Iliad. They buried Hector, tamer of horses. Beowulf, circling the pyre. Arthur, once and future king. Seldom in your young life have you had the chance to learn the pain of lost legends. King, Malcolm, Kennedy's, Mandela, Prince. You ain't met no 200-year-old people. You only get to swing for a few minutes at the park. The van is waiting. Swing well. ask, why did this happen for me? I hope that my words of encouragement through a study of literature has helped you, and I hope that it has rewarded and reaffirmed our study of classic texts as well. Thank you.